morning. Today is Saturday, May 9th. We have birthdays. Well, the first birthday is to my grandson, Sebastian. He's 9 years old today. On May 9th, it's his golden birthday. Jim and I plan on going over there today, just doing a sidewalk visit. I got him a little tiny gift to give him. But it kind of sucks. If you saw my video yesterday, the police department for the little town that he lives in, they did a drive-by with their sirens and stuff like that. It was really cool. So it was on my video last night on the 8th. But anyway, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sebastian. Happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha. Love you. Love you. Oh, there's your big hug. I hug my grandkids. I do hug my grandkids. There's his big hug. A virtual hug. But it's also Judy Reve's birthday. Judy, you knew I would sing to you. You just knew it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Judy. Happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha. And it's also Mary Dukakis' birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mary. Happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha. Anyway, like I said, today is Sebastian's birthday, and we're going to be going over there. Jim and I did not walk this morning. I had to do my meeting highlights this morning. I did get up a little later than I normally do. I was on the phone with Christy, and then I was on the phone with Mary, and then I called Danny, and I was going to talk to Sebastian. But Danny and Sebastian were just on their way out the door to go golfing. It's very windy and very cold. They're dedicated golfers as far as I'm concerned. Although he thinks that when he hits the ball, the wind's going to carry it a little bit farther. Because it's a little too windy for me. It's kind of breezy. But it's cold, too. It's like February out there. Reminiscent of February. Do we remember February? It just seems like it was so long ago. Things are so much different nowadays. They really are. But anyway, we were going to stay on plan today. I did have a loss today of 1.2. I was very happy. I was only hoping for a 0.2 because I told you I had that banana split. It was a homemade banana split, so you know I was very generous with the ice cream, and I was very generous with the fudge, and I was very generous with the whipped cream. So I was surprised to get the 1.2, but I thought that the week before I should have lost a little bit more. So it just shows you that sometimes your body fluctuates, so I have to be really careful this week that it doesn't come back to haunt me next week, that banana split last week. But I'm going to stay on plan. I'm going to stay on track. I've already tracked out my day. I've already got it written in my phone because I track on my phone in the morning, and then I transfer it to my book that I show you as I'm eating the meals. And then if I add any snacks or something, I add them in too. I'm not really a big snack eater. For the most part, I show you everything I eat. A lot of times, which I don't show you, is when I get back from my walk and I'm drinking my water, I'll have an apple, which is 0 points, and so a lot of times I just don't show you that. But I'll have like an apple or maybe, well, if I have anything that's a point value, I always show you. But if it's something like a 0 point item, if I grab like some celery or cucumber or something like that, I don't show you. But I do get enough to eat because I had my little scare, and it was enough to scare me a lot. It was more than a little scare for me. And so I'm really keeping track of my blood sugar, and like I said yesterday, been there, done that, and I'm going to do that again. Didn't like it at all. But I was talking with my sisters and I were talking on the 7th, which is my mother's anniversary, and we got into a little discussion that my sister Denise and I both always have to be right. It's just, that's who we are, the oldest and the youngest. You know, the two spoiled ones, because the oldest is always spoiled and the youngest is always spoiled. The middle ones are just kind of like along for the ride, like I say. But I always said that my mother told all of us different stories. My mother was, I don't know what the deal was with my mother, but my mother told my sister Mary that she got married in Georgia because she had to go to that state because she wasn't of legal age to get married, which would have made her get married in 1943. And then I always was told by my mother that she was married on May 7th, 1946. And Denise said that she was told that she was married on May 7th, 1945. So I had said that no, that's not the case. I know that it was 1946. So as sisters do. We, argued back and forth. And then I went to find things. And my mother, which reminds me of a story, because I have no shame in telling you this, because it was just, and I grew up during the love festivals and stuff like that, the sexual revolution and things, like during the 60s, when they had Woodstock and all that. I have no shame in telling you I was a virgin when I got married. Jim's the only one I've been with. But we did a lot of things. We were young. We just never had intercourse. But, we did a lot of other things. But anyway, so when Jim got drafted in 1969, and we would write love letters back and forth to each other. And some of our love letters were explicit. Let's just put it at that. They were a little explicit. But they were just to each other. It's not like I was going to read them to my family. And it wasn't like I was going to read them at a poetry reading at a jazz festival or something, at a poetry reading. It was just for Jim and I. And it was just things that we talked about, the different things that we've done and, that we were going to do and, all that good stuff. I was 18. He was 19. I mean, it was just, Anyway, my mother came across one of my letters. And I remember she said, she waited until all the kids were out of the house. And she said, she called me Sandra at that time. She only called me Sandra when she was upset with me. My father always called me Sandra. But my mother only called me Sandra when she was mad at me. And she said, Sandra, we need to sit down and have a talk. And I remember we went down the basement. I don't know why we went down the basement. But we went down the basement and we were sitting on the basement stairs. And my mother had this big old bag of letters. And so she said, I want you to pull any letter out of this bag, and I want you to read it to me. Well, right away I'm mortified because I'm thinking, are those my letters? Did she find my hiding spot? All mothers find your hiding spot. I don't care. Like they'll say they don't look in your room. They look in your room. They do. Because it's only for your own safety. But I found many of things looking in the room. But I never confronted them on it unless I thought it was detrimental to them, But, because I found my share of playboys and, hustlers and things like that. But anyway. Oh, that brings me to another story. Anyway, but so I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to read something out loud. Hope it's one of the good ones. Hope it's one of the good ones. And so I reach in the bag and I pull out a letter, and it was a love letter that my father had written my mother when he was in the war. Because my father was in World War II. He was part of the coordination he was in the Navy, and he was part of the Normandy landing. But anyway, I read the letter from my father to my mother, and it was a love letter. It was so sweet. It was so nice, and it really was a love letter. And then my mother reached in her pocket and pulled out my letter, and she said, would you like to read this one now? No, thank you. I don't want to. So she said, this is how you're supposed to write a love letter. This is a letter that you don't ever want to have your mother or your father find. And you need to tell Jim that he doesn't need to be writing this kind of stuff, and you don't need to be writing that kind of stuff either, because that's not the way you show love. This is the way you show love. Keep this letter. So I kept the letter, and I always remembered that letter. And then just before my mother passed, she gave me her bag of love letters. And she said, you know why I'm giving you these. And so she gave me all of her love letters. And so I just never read them because I just thought it was kind of private and that. So I put them away. And then when we were having our little argument the other day, when they kept insisting that my mother had got married in 1945, and I kept saying no because Dad was still in the war, and because the war hadn't ended yet, because it didn't end until June 6th, and he was in Normandy. There's no way they got married in May in 1945. So I went through the letters, and I found a letter. I just grabbed, went through them just kind of, I wasn't reading any of them, but I picked out one that my father had sent her in January of 1946, and it was addressed to her by her maiden name, not by her wedding, like her married name. It was her maiden name. So I said, I think this kind of offers proof that that she was married in 1946, because why would he have sent her love letters and addressed it to Fatherby was her maiden name. Why would she have addressed it to her maiden name and not to her married name? That just doesn't make sense. So now my sister Mary is going to investigate. She's going to see if she can find the marriage license. Because that's just who my family is. We always got to be right. We're never wrong. And That's just who we are. But anyway, the other story was that when we rented a house from the church in Detroit, it was St. Brendan's in Detroit, and our house was like here, and the driveway was like here, and then the school was right here. So I could look out my door and see my kids in school. I could see how they were behaving in school, because if I looked out my kitchen window, I could see them in the 2nd grade, and if I looked out my living room window, I could see them in the 4th grade, and then when I could go upstairs, I could see them either in the 6th grade or the 8th grade. I could always spy on them. I couldn't see them on the other side, though, because that was the other side of the school. But anyway, and the driveway was not our drive. We have like a, excuse me, a parking pad in front of our house where we could park our car. But the driveway was to lead to the back of my backyard, where there were 3 garages for the 2 were for the 2 priests and 1 was for the nuns. So I always thought that was kind of sucky that the nuns had to share a car, but each priest had their own car. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So anyway, we had a pastor, Father Lombardi, who was a different kind of priest. He was nice, but he was he was not really old school, but he was definitely not new school. He was like right there in the middle. And Jimmy, he always thought that he shouldn't have rented the house to somebody with a family. Because of the driveway, he was afraid that, with the kids, that, he wouldn't see them and he would hit them. And so anyway, I remember when I was pregnant with Danny, he came up to me and he says, I never wanted to rent the house to you because, you had your little boy Jimmy, and now you're pregnant again. And I thought, Father, I thought the church doesn't practice, birth control, so what do you expect me to do? Whatever. So anyway, that's another story. But so anyway, he was out there one time and he was talking. Jimmy was sitting out on the porch and he was reading. And so the Father Lombardi had come up and says, "Oh, you like to read?" And Jimmy says, "Yeah, I like to read. It's just like, this is my favorite book." And because Jimmy, I should have a complex, but Jimmy's favorite book was Are You My Mother? I don't know about that. But anyway, that was his favorite book. He would read it and read it and read it and read it. So anyway, the Father says, "Oh, that's nice that you read. I like to read too." And so Jimmy says, "Oh, we got lots of books and magazines in the house. My mom and my dad like to read." And he says, "Well, that's good. Reading's always good for you." And then he went into the rectory. So then Jimmy went into the house and had gone into my bedroom, which kids are not allowed in the bedrooms. That's in my bedroom, at least, when they were little. And somehow he figured out that Jim had some Playboys. And so he went and got a Playboy magazine and went over to the rectory and rang the doorbell and told Father, he says, "You might like to read this because I think my dad reads this all the time." So Father brings it back to us, and he didn't give it to Jimmy and tell him to bring it back. He brought it back to us, and then he gave us a lecture on how we shouldn't have that kind of smut in our house. Anyway, those are my 2 stories. Let's get on with the day. Let's see what we're going to have for breakfast. Talk to you guys at breakfast time. Okay, Jim's in the kitchen sanding the cupboards because we're getting new cupboard doors put in. And he's got to paint the shelves of the thing, so it's too loud in there. So I thought I'd come in here, my sanctuary. But today is Saturday, May 9th. My quote is, "Especially now, enjoy the little things in your life, because one day you will look back and realize they were the big ones." It's a 9-point breakfast. I have 23 points for the day. It's 0 for my egg, my berries, my banana, my tea, and my water. 3 points for my center cut bacon. 3 points for my slice of toast. 3 points for a tablespoon of peanut butter. It's 9 points. I still have 14 points. There's my breakfast. There's my tea, my water. Got my water lined up for the day. And then we're going to watch a little bit of television. So let's get started. I know you're supposed to sit at a table when you eat, but it's way too loud. Okay, we're coming to see Sebastian on his birthday and staying a safe distance away. He's got an NBA basketball, and his dad is putting together a basketball hoop thing for him. There he is. And Oliver's doing his own little video. Okay, today is Sebastian's actual birthday. So he's getting another parade. for lunch, I'm going to have some of my Weight Watchers chili with some cheese on it and a glass of water. So it's 4 points. Still have 10 points left for dinner. Okay, for dinner, I'm going to have a piece of the leftover stromboli for 10 points and my lemonade for 1. It's my lemonade and my water. Well, Sebastian had another great day today. I was able to do a sidewalk visit over at his house. I wanted to hug him. As much as you know, I don't like to hug. I like to hug my grandkids, but it was kind of sad in a way. But I was nice that I got to see him and give him his birthday present, and it was a nice day. So tomorrow's Mother's Day. My kids are going to come by one to visit me for a sidewalk visit, so I'll get to see them. And just stay on track, because it was nice having that loss today. I want to have another loss next week. So my goal now is just to have a small loss every week, and I'm going to do it. I just know I am. So if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, leave a comment, hit that like button, and share it if you think somebody might like to see it. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. I almost forgot. Stay healthy. Stay safe. See you tomorrow.